Should we just get going? So,
Yes.
are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready, Gary? Okay. Are you ready? Okay, you ready?
I thought it was on the phone, so Josh really kindly gave me some extra time to wash my hair.
Are you ready?
Yeah, ready as all everybody.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Well, firstly, an apology to everyone watching today. I'm a little bit soft focus at the moment because I have lost the camera on my laptop, so I've had to go find an old crappy one that is looking like it's from the 1800s with 1.2 megapixels. Fantastic, thank you. So bear with me, everyone. So now, but this is going to be all worth it because I have got Chelsea Luker with me. Now, she has written a fantastic book for autistic kids and ADHD kids called Square Me Round World. This is going to help them understand their world a little bit better. Plus, it's also going to be very beneficial for parents and educators. So, Chelsea, thank you for joining me.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, before we talk about the book, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got to be doing what you're doing?
Sure can. So my name's Chelsea. I'm an autistic ADHD psychologist. I'm also a parent of 2 neurodivergent kiddos myself. And, being someone that has to learn how to human, I became very interested in humans from a very early age. And so not surprising that I ended up in psychology. And then once I ended up in psychology, I very quickly found myself working with a number of autistic clients, surprisingly enough. So I just loved it. It was so enjoyable. Going to work was so fun. And I decided to set up my own practice. So I own my practice, Connect Us Psychology. And I also then very quickly found out that most of my clients that were coming were autistic ADHDers, various, combination of neurotypes. And it's just kind of snowballed since then. And now I'm doing some individual therapy. I've just written my own group program that I've just started running this year. So that's called Building Your Neurodivergent Identity. And so I've started running some of those programs this year, do some training, written a book, done a teacher's ebook to go with the book.
Oh,
I just
fantastic.
do a lot of the things. Yeah.
So is it what age group are your clients for the psychology practice?
I see across the lifespan. So I see from the young'uns right up to, everywhere in between.
To
yes.
late diagnosed people. Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Are you seeing I'm going off script here just a little bit. Are you seeing more adults being brave enough to come forward and be diagnosed? Because they may have been spending all their life just going, there's something not quite right here, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah. I think so many people have been trying to put their finger on it and unfortunately have been really let down a lot of times where they've, potentially been misdiagnosed or they've been, told it's, different things or, it's just social anxiety or you just, everyone experiences it like that. So I think that a lot of people were let down. I think that a lot of people are starting to, recognize some things through, information being more widely available. But yeah, definitely there's a big shift in terms of adults coming to recognize, hey, actually, maybe there's a reason that lifing has been a bit tricky, when I've been using the wrong handbook, essentially.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's where your book, now let me get it right, Square Me Round World, I love the title, is going to help a lot of people because you've got some little scenarios in there which people can relate to. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Sure can. And that was, one of the primary drivers is I wanted people to see themselves, but in fictional experiences, that weren't overly, intrusive or overly, putting categories and things on everything. It was giving people a chance to read their own experiences into it. So the book is a collection of 7 short stories, and they're just about different experiences that lots of individuals may experience, but particularly autistic ADHDers may experience growing up. So, you know, there's a story about feeling different. There's one about autistic friendships, masking, autistic burnout, you know, rejection sensitive, dysphoria, sensory overload, and of course, troubles falling to sleep, which some of us know very well.
Yes, I have a little bit of that myself anyway. I'm a bit bleary-eyed this morning. Yeah, well, that's what I like about it, because the stories are so accessible. You can read them. Even I found myself going, "Oh, I relate to a little bit of this," or people can take what they want from it. And once you read it and go, "Okay, I relate to this. I am not the weird one. I am not the different one. I am just me." And because I've got, in all my books, I've got a whole big thing about self-acceptance, about getting kids to look at themselves and go, "Okay, no, actually, I'm okay the way I am." And do you find that when kids start to accept themselves for who they kind of are then freer to express themselves?
100%, you know, as I said, you know, if you live life using the wrong handbook, you know, you're just feeling like you're never quite measuring up, you know, you're never meeting the things that you're supposed to meet. But, you know, if you can understand what your handbook's supposed to look like, you know, all of a sudden you can lean into the things that fit for you and feel authentic and feel safe and feel comfortable and feel enjoyable. So I think, you know, knowing your identity and knowing your neurotype just makes such a huge difference in terms of that feeling, that self-understanding and that self-acceptance and the ability to recognize, hey, actually, that's not right for me. You know, this fits better for me and feels right.
I love that. Now, you put a discussion guide at the end of the book, and I love that because it's all these questions for each that relate to each chapter. What made you do that? Are parents struggling to have these conversations? What was the motivation?
Look, I think, unfortunately, I would like this to not be the case, but unfortunately, you know, being neurodiversity affirming is still really new in our world. And, you know, certainly a lot of parents weren't raised in a neurodiversity affirming world. And so, you know, we've had this medical model view of neurotypes for such a very long time and really are looking at things as being, you know, disordered and, you know, all of this sort of icky medical jargon, that I think, you know, it's really hard to kind of bridge that experience with, you know, how to actually be neurodiversity affirming as a parent. And so, you know, 99% of the time, parents are so well intentioned. They, you know, they have these beautiful intentions and they just want the best for their children. But the knowing how to do that is the hard part. And so I just wanted, you know, some prompters or some guidance for having those conversations and really being able to illustrate it's not rocket science. It's not, you know, this an unattainable thing, you know, it's just having the willingness to be open and curious in these conversations and trying to put, you know, our preconceived notions to the side.
Yeah, I can understand that totally, because it is really, I suppose having the conversation starters and the discussion guide creates that safe space between the parent and the child, and that is paramount. And then obviously it opens up that curiosity aspect for the parent to have these questions, ask the questions, and then see where the conversation goes. And that allows the child to then start to explore themselves as well and go,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, I haven't been asked that question before. What do I think about that?" And then they start to understand themselves. The parent starts to understand their child, and suddenly goes, "Oh, I'm not a bad parent. I just don't understand." And now this is a way of getting parents and kids to understand each other and feel safe in that safe space. And I think that's a brilliant idea. Now, you are a late diagnosed autistic ADHD yourself.
Yep.
How has that changed your worldview of yourself and the world around you?
I think it's been massive. You know, it's been a process, given that, you know, I learned how to do life as a neurotypical individual pretty well, until I didn't. And so, you know, there's a lot of unlearning and relearning and a lot of unpacking in terms of looking back and going, oh, okay, I can see what was going on there. And I think, one of the things we're really starting to have a better understanding of is how much of the experience is internal. And, when so much of it is internal, it's very hard to know that not everyone is experiencing what you're experiencing. And, not everyone comes away from, social experiences and has to lie on the couch for 3 hours because they're so exhausted. You kind of just assume that everyone's doing this, right? This is just a humaning thing, right? So I think when you start to have answers to, actually, some people don't find these simple things simple. Some people find them really hard, just like you find them really hard. And then other people do find them simple. Other people can just go and, do all those things without, too much effort. And I think until you understand that people's internal experiences are quite different, you do kind of maintain that, well, this must just be how it is for everyone.
Was there a pivotal moment that made you go, I need to get this diagnosis, or was it just a combination of so many different things?
A combination, but then I think, as is very, very common, I recognized that one of my children, I was going, yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is what's going on. And because I had the fortune of being a professional in the area. And given that child is very similar to myself, it wasn't very far of a leap to go, okay, well, if that's what's going on there, probably the same thing here. So it wasn't so much something came out of the blue. It was kind of adding up to a lot of little things. I think as well, so much of the autistic neurotype and the ADHD neurotype are known by when those individuals are in distress and the things you see when they're in distress. And so, when we're seeing individuals that aren't in distress, and they're actually pretty well accommodated for, it's not so externally obvious. So, I kind of had a little bit of time to kind of put all of my experiences, all of my ideas together. And then I was like, yeah, fairly sure this is what's going on. So that's when, for myself, but also for my child, I decided, let's go and suss this out, and let's, figure out the best way to get support and make sure that we're, doing life in a way that works for us.
Yeah. I've heard similar stories, actually, of a lot of parents going, I'm looking at my child and I'm going, oh, I feel the same. Okay, there's got to be a connection here, and they go, that's what, and everything suddenly makes sense, which I think is a kind of beautiful thing, because it allows you to then adapt, change, cope, facilitate a bit more. So, now, if there was one myth about autistic people and ADHDs and stuff like that you could blow out of the water, what would that myth be?
When I saw this question, I was like, oh, could we have 7 hours on this question alone? I probably could talk for 7 hours on it. So I was worked very hard to try and condense my thoughts in relation to this. And I guess one of the ones that I would like there to be, much better understanding in relation to, and, it was actually the story that started writing the Square Me Round World, which is Finding Your Flock, which is all about autistic friendships, is that, autistic people have poor social skills and they don't want connections, or they can't make connections. We've learnt so much, about autistic communication and about autistic relationships and how different they are from holistic or non-autistic communication and relationships. And, non-autistic people communicating to non-autistic people communicate just as well as autistic people communicating to autistic people. The mismatch comes when it's an autistic person talking to a non-autistic person. And, because non-autistic people, are the majority, and because we had that very medical model view, that's where the whole idea of this deficit, or there's, a lack of social skills you know, whereas autistic people have perfectly fantastic social skills. It's just their autistic social skills, and they can develop relationships, and most want connections. You know, that's one of the most healing parts, is actually connecting with people that you feel safe with. But, you know, because it's been framed, you know, they don't want connections, or they can't make connections, or they need to learn social skills. You know, the approach has very much been, well, you know, let's teach them to make eye contact, and let's teach them to, you know, say hello and how are you and would you like to play, instead of going, you know, how can we help you embrace your authentic communication style and your authentic connection style? Because, you know,
that is so important, because it's like, for someone like myself who's neurotypical, I think, but having to do a lot of school talks and school visits and do run workshops, and there's a lot of autistic kids in the classes. And when I first started, if I wasn't getting contact, I thought I was doing something wrong. I wasn't getting their attention. I was boring them. So therefore, I thought I was, you know, I need to up my game. And then I had a EA, education assistant. Bless them, they're the best people in the whole world. She said to me, if they're not looking at you, it doesn't mean they're not listening. They're mostly listening more intently than the other kids are. And I went, okay, game changer. And so therefore I worked that into my presentation. And if they're not, I just let them be who they are. And I know they're still taking in the information. And I find out later that they have taken it in, and they've just gone, wow, this is great. So I think what your book is going to do is for non-autistic and non-ADHD people, they can read it and go, now I know how I can communicate with these people without having to make them fit into our world. Did it make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's finding that middle ground. And it's, you know, for so long the expectation has been on autistic people to, you know, to be neurotypical and to, you know, play the game, you know, which has just been, you know, catastrophic for so many people, and has had huge impacts on physical and mental health and, you know, well-being and self-acceptance and all of those sort of things. You know, whereas if we can create this middle ground of, you know, shared understanding and shared expectations in communication, you know, neither side is going to have to try as hard, and you're going to have a better outcome.
Yeah, I love that.
For everyone, really.
Yes, yeah. And that's what you want, everyone to have the better outcome. So last question, Chelsea, what lights you up?
So I had to answer this question in two forms, because I was like, oh, I'm getting too stuck. So I looked at it personally and I looked at it professionally, because they do overlap, but I think that they're a little bit different. So, you know, personally, I love musicals, love musicals. And even more so now that I've found out that I can go to a musical and wear noise cancelling headphones and be able to actually enjoy it and not be exhausted after I've seen it. I love reading. Don't have much capacity for reading at the moment, but, you know, as a child, I would borrow 20 books and finish them on the same day and drive my parents wild because I'd be asking to go to the library again. Love nature, love being in nature when nature is sensory friendly. If there's too many sensory yucks, then no, but I do love nature. I love spending time with my kiddos. They are hilarious and the most enjoyable little people to be around. And I love doing life my way and slow, and, you know, really tapping into what feels right and what it feels like I need and like what my family needs. They're probably the main things. Professionally, I'm just so passionate about, you know, continuing to work towards this world where everyone can be valued for who they are, and, you know, that it's not about, you know, what they offer or what their strengths are or what their superpowers are or, you know, any of those things, but just that everyone is valued for who they are and everyone is, you know, included, and it's not even seen as a thing. It's just, you know, we just approach things through an inclusive lens. So yeah, any elements of that, you know, I do all the reading, I do all the learning. I'm very passionate about all of those things, but I think that's my main, you know, focus.
Well, that sounds pretty good, Chelsea. Sounds like you've got a big love of life, which I think is absolutely amazing. So Now, where can people grab a copy of the book and find out more about yourself?
So I sell the hard copy version, which is the beautiful version that I got printed myself with its beautiful yellow pages inside.
And you will sign it for people?
I'm happy to sign for people, definitely. So that can be found at my website, which is connectuspsychology.com. For anyone that for anyone that's overseas, given shipping from Australia is not very nice, I have made a paperback copy available through places like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and, you know, those sort of online retailers.
And
so
those links those links will be at Connect Us Psychology, won't they? Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Look, thank you so much, Chelsea. It's been an absolute delight, and thank you for joining me on my program.
No, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.